In today's episode, I'm joined by Craig Stevens, an agent who's done it all, from high street manager to franchise owner to building his own brand at Riva Lily. We talk about what most agents get wrong about success and how to build a business that's modern, honest, and actually enjoyable to run. Hope you enjoy the podcast. If you're an estate agent that wants to stay ahead of the competition and to make more profits, then you need to talk to Iceberg Digital. Iceberg doesn't just sit alongside your CRM system, it replaces it. It's the UK's leading AI operating CRM system for estate agents, combining your CRM system, prospecting, marketing, website, and compliance all in one ecosystem. Your CRM system becomes fully automated, taking care of those repetitive tasks your team shouldn't be doing. Your prospecting runs 24/7, scanning the portals, capturing property addresses, matching them with your database, and sending them personal outreach faster than any human ever could. Your marketing is automatically written to match your tone of voice. Blogs, property descriptions, vendor updates, all done for you. And your website becomes AI driven, adapting to each visitor in real time and making your agency discoverable on Google and also on tools like ChatGPT. Agents across the UK are already using Iceberg to run a leaner, smarter, and more profitable business. Visit icebergdigital.co.uk and mention the Estate and Consultancy podcast when you book your demo to get an exclusive perk. Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You were long overdue, some would say. So talk me through. So you have seen, I think, probably every version of estate agency out there. So talk me through that journey, sort of when you first started to how we got through to today.
I have, yeah, high end, low end, middle. I've done kind of pretty much all of it. So weirdly, probably virtually like 99% of estate agents that would say they fell into it. I wasn't at school saying I wanted to be an estate agent, but I actually was a travel agent. So I worked for First Choice Holidays and I worked abroad. I was overseas for 5 years. Absolutely loved that job. But the time comes when, people say you have to grow up and get a proper job and not spend your days on the beach and everything else. So unfortunately, I had to bite the bullet and come back to the UK. And it was deciding really, did I want to do car sales? Did I want to be in recruitment? I like the idea of recruitment as well, and a state agency. And I applied for some recruitment roles. I applied for some estate agency roles, and luckily I got accepted in as a trainee. As everyone starts, as their T-boy, and don't touch the phones, just listen. But I started off with Sequence at William H. Brown, so I was in Leicester City Centre, and that was my kind of starting off as a T-boy in the city centre office.
And how did that progress from there? So once you
Yeah.
kind of gave up the suntan and that had faded away, and obviously the realities of living in slightly drizzly Leicester, how did that progress from that sort of initial T-boy position?
So luckily, because I'd done, I suppose, the holiday, kind of being a holiday rep, and I was used to standing up in front of crowds and doing presentations and everything, because we were selling trips to all the guests. So I wasn't kind of phased by any of that. So because I'd had that 5 years experience, luckily I went from trainee T-boy, I suppose, to the lister within 2 years, to I don't think it's 1 year. 1 year later, I was the lister. Did incredibly well at that. And 1 year later, I was actually the youngest branch manager. So I had a branch manager role, which when I look back at the pay, and that wasn't great. But, I loved the title of a branch manager within 2 years. And I took on an office that wasn't very good, which is why they gave it me. But we took that office to the number one office within, I was at William H. Brown for 6 years. So within, I think, 4 years, we took that office to the number one office in the region. So about 13 offices, had a great team there. We made more money than the office had ever made in 27 years of opening. So it was really good times. So William H. Brown in Oadby for 20 years ago, that's basically where I was a branch manager.
And
And then it
you,
all changed.
yeah, so you obviously outgrew that position, or you got hungry for more.
Yeah,
What
it
were the
was a
change?
strange one really, because I talk about this quite a lot where I never thought I'd leave William H. Brown. I absolutely love that job. It was like I loved the being there, I loved the culture, I loved my boss was amazing. But because we had such a good time, I won Manager of the Year, Employee of the Year. They then had a meeting with me and gave me a pay cut,
Oh,
which it was a bit weird giving a Manager of the Year award. I followed up with, look, you actually made too much money last year. and we need to, now your profits going through the roof and everything else, we need to actually water down your commission, which I thought was a bit bizarre. So I could never understand it because I thought, surely you want to pay me £1 million a year commission because that means you're making millions and millions. Saying to me that, I've earned too much on my OTE just didn't make sense. So yeah, it annoyed me so much that they just said, well, just have a think about it and everything else. And no, it lost, lost my mojo with it. I just didn't like being told I couldn't make as much commission as what I wanted. So I got a telephone call with an opportunity to buy a franchise. And this was Newton Fallowell. So a lot of people in the Midlands will know Newton Fallowell because they've got 40 odd offices now and they're owned by Belvoir now. But I ended up buying a franchise. They wanted 60 grand for it. I negotiated down all the way to zero.
Wow.
So I took the office for nothing because it had lost £70,000 the year before. So I said to them, well, look, it can't be worth anything. The office has lost £70,000. So surely just giving me the keys, you're going to start saving, thousands of pounds from day one. And the reality is I didn't actually have £70,000. I had about 20 grand to my name. So I couldn't afford to have a year where it lost £70,000. Otherwise I'd have been bankrupt and everything else. So I took that franchise on, worked. That was my first time in as a self-employed estate agent, and worked 7 days a week for 4 months. And we turned that office around and it made 25 grand profit in its first year. So that was kind of my getting into self-employed estate agents. And before you knew it, we owned, I owned 3 Newton Fallowell franchises and took a Fine and Country franchise. And I had that for the best part of 6 years. So I was at William H. Brown for 6 years, Newton Fallowell and Fine and Country for 6 years. And then they got bought out by Belvoir, which then came with its own corporate mentality. And again, I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't want to be told what to do. I wanted to market homes the way I wanted to market them and everything else. So I decided to put them all for sale. So sold them all, moved on. And I was going to take a year out of work because I'd had a 2-year-old child that I wanted to spend some more time with. But actually, Purple Bricks were on the rise and I had loads of friends saying, come to Purple Bricks, come to Purple Bricks. And because I was already self-employed anyway, I went there, thought I could just list a couple of houses a month and just do it for a bit of fun. But you get kind of wrapped up into it. And before you know it, we were listing 20 houses a month and I was typing up adverts at midnight and got wrapped into it. But it was a good few years at Purple Bricks, yeah. Back in the days when Kenny and Michael were there and everyone was self-employed. Yeah.
Yeah, I see Kenny quite a lot at the TA UK events, and Kenny can give a speech. Like Kenny can, he can get him behind a microphone. And you're ready for war for 2 minutes later. He's a really good one. So, at what point did you decide to leave the world of Purple Bricks and kind of go out from there?
So with Purple Bricks, I enjoyed my time there. Got promoted, was an area director there and ran pretty much the Midlands. So we had, I think, 34, 36 estate agents working under me and loved it. But it went from being self-employed to employed. So again, that was the bit that I didn't want to be employed. So yeah, that was the start of, okay, how can I go back to being self-employed again? So I spent probably the best part of 6 months thinking what options I had. And at the time, again, people were leaving them Purple Bricks. They were going to numerous other brokerages. And I decided to look at all the brokerages that I thought were, look at the pros and cons of them all and thought EXP was the one for me. So met up with Adam Day, had a few friends at EXP, went to their Christmas party, found out a bit more about them and thought, yeah, look, I need to get back self-employed again. So time to jump ship, and that was nearly 3 years ago.
So it sounds to me like you've got a really good knack and a really good skill of not only growing estate agency business, but also probably the tougher job, which is probably turning around estate agency businesses. So you mentioned obviously Newton Farwell losing 70 grand a year, for example. Obviously you mentioned the Sequence office not doing that well to start off with. So you go into one of these offices, or whether you're starting from scratch from day one, and you go, right, we're losing money, or we're starting from zero. What's your first move to sort of get the business sort of a little bit of momentum behind it? What's the first step there?
In an office, obviously, the mindset you have on your own as self-employed, but in an office, yeah, we did it a few times because we did it William H. Brown in Leicester City Centre when I was there as a negotiator, then Lister, but the OB office, Newton Fallowell in Melton, and then we bought an estate agents in Syston in Leicester from scratch and turned that into Newton Fallowell and launched that and sold that a few years later. That's still there. So, but a lot of it again is mindset and getting the staff. So when I went into the Melton office, for example, we had to let quite a lot of people go. They just didn't have the mindset. They would have happily walked in at, the office was 9 to 5:30. They would have happily walked in at 9:30. They probably would have happily gone early. They wouldn't have put the effort in. And we had meetings with them all, and you could just see the ones that really wanted to put the effort in and have a career, and the ones that just were there for the paycheck. So it was a restructure, really. But I suppose going back to your question, it's getting that mindset, making sure people actually are proud to be at work and having fun, enjoyment when they're there. Because if they're proud of the results, they'll work harder. And if they enjoy working for you as a boss, and enjoy coming to work, then yeah, it's not going to be seen as a job anymore, is it? That old cliche, they're gonna enjoy being there, and they will work harder. And I suppose that's it. It's making sure that people enjoy it because we want to raise customer service. Everyone will talk about you. Raise the standard of the marketing, the quality of the photos, and everything else that comes off it. So I suppose it's looking at what does your competitors do, and then how can you kind of copy it but do it better? And if you do that, then you're gonna, be successful. But you got to be relentless at doing it. There's a little thing actually. I remember friend of mine who does coaching actually, and he went out with an estate agent friend who said, "Can you come out and watch me?" And I won't say their name, but he said, "Can you come out and watch me? I'm charging 1%. I can't get any higher. All my competitors are charging 1%, but I want to be a better agent." And the lad I know who's the estate agent coach went out with them. And he said to him afterwards, he said, "You know what? You're doing bloody well to get 1%." He said, because he goes, "I don't even know how you're getting 1%. You're doing well at that." And obviously the guy initially took offense and kind of like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" So, well, photos are you aren't doing any photography better than anybody else. There's no videography. There's no big USP here. You're 9 to 5:30, there's no after hours customer service. There's no, it's the same as everybody. So if you're the same as everybody, surely you're going to be charging the same as everybody. How are you going to raise that? So yeah, that's, I suppose, the mindset, isn't it? Looking at how your competitors work, the good ones, the successful ones, and then how can you copy them but do it better?
So let's go and bang up to date with Riva Lily, which I've been quite public online. I love your office, I love your branding. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love the sort of Italian-y sort of cool look. I think it's absolutely great. So you talked about a frustration historically with sort of 1980s style estate agency. What do you think specifically you were fed up with when you sort of looked at Riva Lily and thought we can make it different? What was sort of the frustrations you had with how other agents were doing it? You wanted to do it differently.
Well, look, if any estate agents watching this will know that if you ever have any complaints in a estate agency, 9 times out of 10, it isn't the fact you haven't sold their house. 9 times out of 10, that complaint is around communication. Um, and that communication is they can't get hold of you, or they can't get hold of the right person, or you're not giving them feedback, or you're not giving them helpful tips on how to sell their property. It's normally always around communication. So I thought, well, look, when we launch Riva Lily, I want the marketing. So obviously I've been also at Fine and Country before. I had the contacts with the photographers and everything else. I wanted the photography on every single house, whether it was £1 million house, a 500 grand house, or even a £200,000 house. I wanted that to be the same all the way throughout. I wanted, property videos. I wanted the marketing. I wanted every house in its price range to look the best. Because some people would say, well, if a house is only 250 grand, 400 grand, why do you need it to look like £1 million house? Well, because there might be 100 houses priced at 200. There might be 100 houses priced at 500,000. I want my house to look the best in every price range. So we looked at marketing the homes. I said with photos, videos, everything better to make every single house look incredible in the same price range. But then how could we get around the customer service? So a lot of agents might be doing this now, but we made sure we set up every single house that went on the market in its own very own WhatsApp group. I said to the people that the clients, the sellers, the buyers, look, it will be with me and you. So if I put a house on the market today, the WhatsApp group will be me and you until we're happy with the advert. I'll share with you the photos, the floor plan, the advert, everything. So you are hunky dory, happy with everything. And then once we're ready to go live, I'll add all my team to it. We have a dedicated sales progressor. So throughout the entire process, they have one point of contact. They haven't got to ring Bob, then Sue, then Jane, and keep getting different things. We have one designated sales progressor that then we get raving reviews from. So every single person in the office has their job role, although they can't be, they're not just a sales negotiator or just a lister, because they kind of everyone chips in with things. The other thing we did is we wanted to make sure that we paid people well. So if I showed you paid checks for some of my staff, I know some of my sales team, they've got paychecks better than some area directors at corporate companies. So they all earn incredibly well as well. So if they get paid well, they'll work harder, and it just snowballs, doesn't it? People rave about you because of your customer service and your marketing, and it just snowballs.
Do you think that, paying your team well around you, do you think that sort of, is a bit of a shadow from that conversation you had when you won the managers award and then they gave you a pay cut? Do you think that kind of stays with you over years? I don't want anyone else to feel the way that I felt that day, so therefore my team, if they're successful, like, here's the kitchen sink and some on top of it.
Yeah. If I was going to work employed today, because as of Riva Lily, as we speak at the moment, we have I mean, we've been going 3 years in February, but we have four employed people. There's five of us that go out listing. So, but the ones that are employed, so I've got someone going out doing viewings, I've got a sales progressor, I've got two sales staff. But they're not, as I said, they're not just pigeonholed into roles. I've got an operations manager, sales team, but they all chip in, but they're all paid, yeah, incredibly well. And I think because then they're paid well, they're not going to think, I'm really good at this job, I can go elsewhere, and they won't want to jump ship. They'll be loyal to Riva Lily, and they'll work harder. And we want to pay people for the work. Sales isn't an easy job. You know what it's like. You put a house on the market and you might not get paid for 6 months. Some will sail through easy, but others could take hundreds of WhatsApp messages and telephone calls and emails and just to get that paycheck. So we want to reward staff every step of the way. So when it does come to the end of the month, they pick up their paycheck, they think, crikey, yeah, I'm earning more here than a branch manager or area director.
And I think it's interesting what you said with regard to the marketing piece just now as well, because I would always say you're only as good as your worst instruction. So, for example, people judge a book by its cover. So if I look through Rightmove, for example, and there's I don't know, an estate agent's picture where there's a finger over the lens, or it's taken on an iPhone, or there's 15 bins, I go rubbish estate agent. And that's it. Like I've judged that book. They could be the most amazing negotiator, valuer, lister, salesperson in the world, but because they've seen one picture where they've got their finger in front of the lens, I'm like, rubbish estate agent doesn't care. So I always find it baffling that agents don't do kind of exactly what you're doing there and going, actually, the bar needs to be higher across the entire business so that no matter where people look, whether they're looking for a one-bedroom flat or a six-bedroom mansion, everything is, fantastically presented because that reflects on us being fantastic agents.
Yeah, and look, one of the posts I put out on social media actually today is about a property that was on the market with a different estate agent. They contacted us to say, Craig, we want to change agents. We want to come to you. Now we're 18 miles away from this house, so it's not like they're on the doorstep of our building. But they're saying we've seen your social media, we've seen how you're advertising properties, we've seen the quality of your photos. Can you come out? I went out. We put that house on the market. We actually upped the price. So bearing in mind, they were changing agents, they weren't selling. I said to them, in this instance, this is not always the case. Sometimes they are overpriced when you go out, but in this instance, I didn't think it was. I thought it was a great house. I thought it was, if anything, it was just the marketing wasn't very good. And it was in a remote village and it just needed more exposure. And we got our team out there, videographers, photographers. The house looked amazing, some nice lifestyle photos. We put the price up £15,000 and it sold overnight for the full asking price.
Holy, hi,
So,
how to get yourself a Christmas card.
well, now they rave about us and we get so many other listings now in that village because people saw it at our price point, wasn't selling. We put the price up and then sold it.
Mm.
So it's not always the price, it can be the marketing, it can be the person doing the viewings. So I don't think there's someone said, look, what's the magic, what's the magic wand? How can you all of a sudden go from, what could I do today to go from being an average estate agent to really successful one? And it's not just one, it literally is going through the entire rule book and going, how are you doing this from start to finish? You know, um, the days of going back 20 years ago where, you did the viewings as a T-boy. Um, if you, I suppose, went to Ferrari garage or Bentley garage today where there's 200, 300,000 pound cars, it's not the T-boy that's going to show you around that car, is it?
Mm.
It's probably going to be the director that's going to come out of his office, walk down the stairs, sit down, give you a cup of tea or a coffee, discuss your needs, then show you around the car, maybe offer you a test drive. But it's going to be probably one of the most experienced people showing you that car. So why should that change with a 400,000 pound house? Why should it be the person who started 2 weeks ago? That's not going to be great for the buyer. It's not going to be great for the seller because they're not going to get, probably give the best advice on their behalf. And as an estate agent, it probably doesn't come across well. Because if I was viewing a house and someone then was showing me around, they'd only been doing the job a month or two and didn't know the difference between exchange and completion and everything else that came with the job, it's not going to reflect well on that estate agent. So when I'm going to think about selling my house, like you said about the photography, am I going to then call that person to come and value my house? So again, we wanted to go out and we pretty much try and do every single viewing on every house ourselves, which gets complicated because we've got a lot of houses. But that's what we want to try and do. We want to put the best people showing people around the house as well. And then you get obviously the valuations off the back of that.
I suppose it's having the, I suppose, shop windows in inverted commas for your business to be as sort of as well presented they possibly can do. So obviously, you guys have an office. Obviously, people look in the office and it should be clean and tidy. But obviously, everything from social media through to how the viewings are done, for example, the way you present properties. If you've got 15 boards thrown in a lay-by in an embankment somewhere, sort of thing, doesn't look very good for your business. So kind of having that cross view of your business going, sort of almost no matter where you look, you're going to see
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, if you drove down the road today and you saw a board and it was broken, why would you just drive by it? Why wouldn't you then kind of get onto the board company, as you said, pull that board down, get a new one, nice shiny new one put in place. Your viewings, so get the best person to do the viewings. Your photos, make sure every price point, £100,000 terrace has professional photography. You're going to be able to increase your fees. You'll get more business off the back of it because most buyers end up turning into sellers. Making your social media, your Google page. There's not just one rule of thumb. There's a lot that you need to do. But I think be caring is probably one of the biggest things. I think there's when you're self-employed, you probably care more. And I know there might be a few employed people that go, I care a lot as well. I cared when I was employed, but I certainly care a lot more now. I'm self-employed. It's my name above the door.
Mm.
So, it's not that you don't care, but you do care more when it's your own name.
So talk me through. So you've gone from sort of zero in a state agency to kind of 12 months quite a few times. What do you think some of the mistakes that agents out there, both sort of self-employed and sort of proper branches, inverted commas, what are some mistakes that agents make in the first 12 months that you would hope they would avoid going forward?
So when I started at EXP, so if I did my own experience, that's probably the easiest. When I started EXP, I hadn't valued a house for 3 years because I was an area director at Purple Brit. So obviously everyone else was going out and I was just in meetings and everything else. So I hadn't valued a house for 3 years. So it was a bit of a shock to the system. And I kind of had to question myself, okay, I've got to go back to square one again here. Um, I think I'll say this, getting your valuation, you need business, right? You've got to have business. But if I was thinking about being an estate agent today, going self-employed, if I was in a employed role today and I was thinking about doing it, I would plan it. I would think, okay, I don't want to just jump ship today and do it tomorrow because it won't be very good. It's like putting a property advert together. If I say put it together in 2 hours, it's not going to be very good. You need to plan it and you want it to be good. So if it was me, I would take a couple of months. I would make sure I had my marketing 100% exactly how I wanted it, whether that's branding colors, whether that's contacting photographers to get the right photographers and making sure I had everything in place, my business cards and everything else. And once I had that, and once I had everything, then I would go, right, now I'm going to tell the world about me being an estate agent and I'm going to take 100% pride in what I do. There needs to be no plan B. And I think that's something some estate agents make the mistake of. If there's a plan B, you're probably going to do plan A half-hearted. There's got to be no plan B. It's all or nothing. Do it all. Put every hour, every effort, that work commitment into what you're doing today. Make sure every person in the world knows that you are now a self-employed estate agent. And when you get that first listing, that second listing, it's got to look incredible because, as you say, that's the face of your business. It's got to look incredible, and you need to milk the hell out of it. Um, where, even I think you can get maybe half a dozen social media posts just off your first listing. Coming soon, you talking outside, self-board selfies, the sold selfie, um, look, I'm outside the property, talking about the amount of viewings that you're taking, when you've exchanged, when you completed. A lot of people, I think, don't promote themselves enough. They don't promote themselves enough. They don't put their own face out there enough. That's probably a big mistake I see, where people will advertise, they're an estate agent in the area, but you need to put your face, I think, to everything. That personal branding. I think now estate agency is all about personal branding. So what would I do? Yeah, make sure your face is on everything, your boards, your leaflets, your social media, everything. I know it can be a bit cringeworthy and some people kind of are scared to do that, but that's the best way to get known. I don't know how any other way to do it.
And talk me through that. So obviously, historically, when you were with Sequence and Newton Fallow, there's probably no such thing as personal brand. It probably wasn't much of a thing back then. But obviously now, you're very active on socials. I see your face around a lot, boards and all this sort of stuff. So you're very much on there. How has that affected your business? Do you get recognized in the supermarket? Do people know you before you turn up on a valuation? Talk me through sort of the plus sides of that.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I do the school run as well, every morning. So I do the school run every morning. Not just so I can meet people at the school gates. I actually genuinely enjoy taking my daughter to school every morning. But people obviously they do recognize you. It is a lot harder because I've had a lot of business from those school gates. Yeah, and then people give you business, and I've got to make sure that I do an amazing job because they're going to tell all the other mums at that school about it. So you do get recognised a lot more. I've been at Tesco's when I not long ago buying the shopping and at the till, and the lady all of a sudden said, "You're Craig Stevens, aren't you?" And I was with my daughter. I've been in Subway where I was a lady behind the counter there serving us at Subway, and she commented, "I know you're an estate agent, aren't you?" And I was like, and then you start thinking, "Oh my god, what house have I shown them round?" And you start trying to remember. Like, it's gonna be, you kind of getting embarrassed. What house have I shown them around? Where do I recognize? And they're just, "Oh, I've seen you on social media." So you do get recognized a lot more. Um, and I suppose that's the whole point because if, anybody who's an estate agent nowadays, if nobody recognized you, um, and know what, your face isn't familiar, well, I'm not quite sure how you're going to be successful unless you are behind the scenes. Um, yeah, even, I mean, you can look at people like Sean Newman, for example. He's not actually going out valuing houses, and he obviously is a lot behind the scenes. The property experts and things, but people will still recognize him, right? So I think you've got to have your face out there. What's the pros and the cons? I don't really see a downside to it. Um, Maybe you got to drive a bit slower and not drive around fast and overtake people, anything like that. They'll recognize you. But realistically, I think there's only good things to come from being recognized if you want to be a self-employed estate agent and certainly get your face out.
So you mentioned the school run there. And I know a big focus of the business is sort of a community event, sort of being involved. How does that sort of look day to day or month to month as the business goes?
So I mean, I do the school run I said every morning. I don't do it in the afternoon. We're kind of busy throughout, but we made sure that when we launched in when we opened Riva Lily, for example, we went and met all the other shops. We went in there, we introduced ourselves. We go into the little local coffee shops. We probably spend more money in the coffee shops than we need to, but we want our face to be there. So we get so much business, from the other shops that then recommend us to people. Um, we go into like the pubs and the restaurants and everything to make sure that we've done videos. I think of a very good person actually on this. Although I've done quite a few, a very good person when I first started, I took credit from Tony Ruby. He's at EXP over in Grantham, where he went to loads of businesses and he put it all in social media, introducing businesses and tagging obviously all their followers onto his page. So but day to day, yeah, do the school run, get into the office. We have a meeting every single morning, um, go through exactly what we need to get out of the day. And I'll be honest, it's a busy office at Riva Lily. So we've got, we're out pretty much from 10 o'clock for the whole day, doing valuations, viewings all day. We're in communication with all the team because we have obviously our own WhatsApp groups. It's well known, a bit of a joke. I don't like really going any more than 5 or 10 minutes from our office. A lot of our partners will travel, 40 minutes for valuations. For things more than 10 minutes down the road for me, I'm kind of like, oh my God, it's a long way. So I try and be really hyper local. Because yeah, then we'll just get the most valuations from that. But yeah, getting your face out there is, I think, is the most important thing.
How do you, with your partner agents you have on board, how do you make sure they've kind of got the really way of doing it without sort of micromanaging them and sort of, really kind of being overbearing? 'Cause obviously they've got kind of their own things on, their own things doing. How do you sort of walk that line between sort of making sure they're doing the right things and kind of doing all the right things for the business, but also kind of not nagging them and sort of always being looking over their shoulder?
Yeah, because look, we want them to, they're self employed, right? We want them to feel like they're running their own businesses and we're here to help and support. So we do point out to them that they can pretty much do anything they want, but they really need to keep the branding in line because they're going to benefit off our branding. So if all of a sudden they go off keel and all, our green and gold and white colors all of a sudden starts becoming purple and blues, and it's not gonna match. So they're not going to benefit from it. So we do a lot with them. So when any partners join, we give them their business cards. We give them their first, leaflets. We design them all for them. We give them their leaflets so they can go out. We help them on their social media. So a lot of them aren't. Some will be social media savvy, others aren't. So we'll sit down and we'll go through their social media to get it brand guidelines and get it right so it doesn't look bad and they can get more followers. But I create a lot of templates, a lot of the branding, and I share it with them. So I try and make it very, very easy. So even if we're doing templates where it's leaflets or even templates on Facebook or Instagram, all they need to do is go onto it and just put a picture. So if they've got a new listing, they can just put the picture in. I set it all up for them. It's got their names on there, their emails, their telephone numbers. So we try and make it as easy as possible so they don't have to go tinkering and creating stuff themselves. That's basically the easiest way to describe it.
I think some things I see this occasionally where people will be like, "Oh, well, I grew the business from scratch, from nothing, with just my name and a business card. Therefore, I kind of expect you to do the same sort of thing." And it's like, well, they're not the same as you. You're different people, sort of thing. So therefore, you need to give them kind of a softer landing as possible to say, right, this is the system, this is the process, this is how we list properties, this is how we generate leads, this is what you're doing in social media from day one. And I guess for you, that investment on day one pays dividends down the line. So it's worthwhile you spending that extra time rather than kind of throwing against the wall to start off with, and fingers crossed they're still there in 6 months.
Yeah, because look, we want them to be successful, right? And they want to be successful. And the reason they're kind of contacting us to start with is because there's something that resonates with them anyway, whether that's the marketing that we're already doing, whether that's the social media that they're following. So there's something that resonates with them why they're contacting us to start with. To say we would like to be, either with EXP and you as a sponsor, or we'd like to go with Riva Lily, how can we do it? So they're on board normally from day one. It's very rare that I've ever spoken to someone who wants to do it completely different. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be contacting us to start with. But the support that we offer by helping them with all their social media, by making sure that really all they need to do is concentrate on winning listings. Because if you think about on the high street, most listers, valuers, however you want to call them, they don't really want to be bogged down in creating adverts and the social media and everything else. That comes with it because they'll grow their business. But really, they want to go out and win some listings and sell some houses. So we try and give them as much admin support in the background that they can go and do what they do best, which is go out and win business. And we try and put as many people as we can, or should I say, put them in front of as many people as we can, get them in as many living rooms as we can.
Craig, you've been very generous with your time, to say the least. And I know we mentioned before we press record today how busy your office is with completions just before the Christmas break. So I've got one last question for you, if that's okay. Let's go very glass half full on that side. What excites you most about where estate agency is headed over the next couple of years?
The fact that I think everyone is taking a lot more pride in it. And it's getting a lot more individual, which is exciting because I think the marketing used to be, if you go back 10 years ago, very stagnant. Everyone had just nice little photos and they all had window cards in their office and they all kind of did very similar things. So everyone, although that most estate agents said we were the best estate agent and probably got their pie charts out, there wasn't a lot of difference realistically, was there, from one estate agent to the other? Now I think it's very individual, and that's what I like. So many different estate agents going self-employed. So you really, the fact, and I think it's going to be like that, right? That trajectory is just going up and up and up. And whether people like the fact it's going that American way or not, it's going that way. But I like it. I think, look, people are going to make more money as estate agents. People are going to have a lot more free time to spend time with families or hobbies or whatever they want to do. And more importantly, they're going to market homes, which is our passion, market homes the way I think they should be marketed. And we have a tagline on our social media and on our website saying every home is unique and the marketing should reflect that. And I think that's the case. Everyone, if I was selling my house then and paying thousands of pounds, I'd want someone to give me something a bit, not necessarily bespoke is going to get a bit harder because everyone's doing similar things, but at least have a bit more passion to sell my house. Be a bit excited about it rather than it's the 15th listing of the month and you've hit your kind of criteria. Want them to be excited to sell my house. And I think as more and more people get self-employed, as brokerages go that way, I generally think people are being, as we talked about before with wages, getting rewarded for the effort they put in. So I think their effort is going through the roof, and I think they care. And as long as someone has a passion for the industry and a passion for selling houses, that's all we can ask for, really.
Craig, you've been an absolute superstar. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. Thanks for having me.